Hey, welcome back to YT Finance, and this is the channel where I went to business school so you didn't have to, and today we are talking about Sofi Technologies SOFI stock, where the stock price could go after their Q4 2021 earnings preview and results that are going to happen today after the market closes, what this means for the overall stock trajectory, as well as what analysts think of this stock. We're also going to go over the various forecasts for their earnings per share, as well as their revenues, to see if their earnings report are going to match these various projections by professionals. For more SoFi stock videos, remember to go and smash that like button right now, subscribe if you are new, comment your thoughts down below about Sofi Technologies, and without further ado, let's jump right into today's stories. If you didn't know, Sofi Technologies is a fintech company, and they offer an all-in-one inclusive app that has everything finance related that a person would need. Anything from loans to investing to credit cards and bank accounts. They offer literally everything that someone would need in terms of finance. Currently, the SOFI stock price trades for around $11.73, which is good because that's actually lower than the low-end analyst price target for the next 12 months, which comes in at $14. The average 12-month price consensus for the stock is $17.95, which is again above the stock's current price of $11.73, and the most bullish price prediction among Wall Street analysts is $22. Right now, around 11 analysts cover this stock that I have researched, and 8 of these analysts actually say to buy the stock, while 3 of these analysts say to hold, while none of these analysts said that the stock or company was going to underperform, and none of them said to sell the stock. So what are the projections for their earnings reports, specifically for their EPS or earnings per share and their revenues for later today? Well, the EPS estimate, according to Wall Street, is a loss of 12 cents per share. In our last article, we went over a more bearish prediction of a loss of 16 cents per share. However, for their revenues, the estimate is $279.47 million for the quarter. So ideally, we would want Sofi Technologies to bring in more than around $280 million. These are the most up-to-date EPS and revenue estimates because according to the data on screen, over the last 3 months, their earnings per share estimates have seen no upward revisions, but they have received 2 downward revisions, one of which we talked about yesterday. Their revenue estimates have actually seen 1 upward revision and 2 downward revisions. So we're actually going to talk about one of their upward revisions for their revenues because I am very bullish on this company, so I actually want to go over the positive news because we have already gone over the various revenue decreases for this particular company. If you didn't know, the SOFI stock price actually fell pretty drastically after they announced their acquisition of Technisys for around $1.1 billion in an all-stock deal. However, overall, Wall Street analysts as well as SA authors are still very bullish on the overall company. Because right now, 5 SA authors currently rate Sofi stock as a strong buying opportunity, with 5 analysts saying that the stock is a strong buy, another 5 saying that it's just a good buy, 6 of them say to hold the stock, and 1 says to sell the stock, while none of them say that this stock is a strong sell. If we pop over to some Wall Street analysts, that total around 13, we have 9 Wall Street analysts saying that Sofi Technologies is a strong buying opportunity right now, 1 says it's just a good buying opportunity, 3 of them say to hold the stock, and none of them say to sell Sofi Technologies, and none of them say that the stock is going to underperform. So overall, these are actually very bullish price predictions from these various authors and Wall Street analysts. But now I want to go over more to the things that we need to look out for on their approaching earnings report, as well as their upcoming bullish revenue predictions, such as this author thinking that Sofi Technologies could bring in almost $300 million worth of revenue. Now remember, this is a very bullish increase and positive increase from the article that we just looked at. Remember, Wall Street thinks that the company is going to bring in around $280 million, while this author says they could bring in $298 million. So to justify this revenue valuation, we're going to pay attention to Sofi's member growth, their product count, as well as their various segments and their overall financials. So let's get right into it. So investors in the upcoming earnings report should be very curious about their revenues because they have been increasing their revenues periodically at record high rates. Investors also want to look at the amount of member growth that the company is achieving, as well as the amount of products that they are selling on top of loans that they are giving out. Lastly, we want to pay attention to management's outlook for the full year of 2022, as well as Q1 2022 results. So I want to start off by saying that SoFi's management has done a fantastic job of rapidly growing and scaling their business. For instance, their revenues have more than quadrupled just in the last 7 quarters, which is a phenomenal growth rate. The company clearly has sufficient momentum that we could see in the full year of 2022, and this should make investors very proud of this overall company because it is scaling very rapidly. But the reason for this scaling is mainly due to their member growth count as well as their overall product sales, which is also good news. Customers that have a lending relationship with the company have either opened a financial services account or signed up for the platform to view their credit scores. And as we can see from this particular segment, we have seen fantastic upward growth. But this is just the beginning. SoFi Technologies has seen growth like this literally in all of their segments, which we will get more into. So clearly their members are rapidly growing, and in Q4, we should anticipate this trend to continue because the overall market isn't fully saturated yet, which means, one, that SoFi is not being snubbed out by current competition in the fintech space. It also means that SoFi's platform has been a hit among customers because they keep obtaining more and more customers, and this just adds to their overall revenue growth. SoFi Technologies also discloses their product count every quarter, which is phenomenal news for investors because we can actually look into the number of products the company is selling. This would include home loans, personal loans, student loan refinancing with its Money Invest and Relay accounts. So essentially the total product count indicates how SoFi's customer base is interacting and transacting throughout their various platforms. And as we can see from the chart below, we have seen phenomenal compounding annual growth for this particular sector. And this should reflect very positively in their upcoming earnings report, which should be very positive. With that being said, if the company's product count is actually growing faster than its member count, this is good news because this indicates that SoFi's business model is working. It means that they are cross-selling to customers and even upselling their customers on a multitude of their products. So that's really what we want to see. However, I think SoFi Technologies has done a phenomenal job scaling their overall business, attaining new customers, cross-selling their products, and in turn generating more revenue from this. However, this will be more apparent when we actually see the financials to back any of these statements up. I also want to talk about SoFi's lending business, which is its largest revenue driver. Last quarter, it made up approximately around 77% of their overall revenues. But even in their last earnings call, we got phenomenal news because their revenues actually surged around 26%. However, the reason for this is because people were taking out more loans than normal because the interest rates were extremely low. But now that we know that interest rates are rising, SoFi Technologies could actually have a huge hit for their lending business, which would negatively impact the overall revenues and the overall earnings report. So we do have to keep that in mind. So this earnings report could go south mainly because of the interest rate hikes. I have a quote here from their Q3 earnings call, which says that our record lending segment adjusted net revenues of $215 million was driven by a 49% increase in funded volume to $3.4 billion in total. The largest contributor of the funded volume growth was our personal loans business, which grew a 167% or $1 billion year over year to $1.6 billion in originations for the quarter. Not only that, personal loans funded volume grew sequentially by 27%, even as we stuck to our stringent credit standards, finishing the quarter at a 105% above Q4 2019 pre-pandemic origination levels, a true feat. Now, the author of this article takes it upon himself to estimate around a 10% sequential growth in their lending revenue, and that would mean that SoFi Technologies, specifically for their lending segment, would bring in around $231 million. And if we add that to the revenues brought in by their two other segments, that would put the company's revenue at around $298 million for their Q4 earnings report. This is higher than Wall Street's estimates, which span anywhere from $272 million to $290 million. So ideally, we would want a revenues beat for SoFi Technologies bringing in over $290 million. However, even if SoFi Technologies meets Wall Street expectations, which could be anywhere between $272 million and $290 million, that could also be okay. Now, if they meet revenue expectations, we can anticipate that we won't see much volatility in the stock price. If they beat expectations, we could see the stock price surge. However, if they underperform in any of their metrics, including their earnings per share or revenues, we could see a decline in the overall stock price. However, sometimes, even if SoFi Technologies does have an earnings beat or for an EPS beat, the stock price could still fall due to either investor sentiment or macroeconomic factors. Lastly, when the earnings call comes out today after market close, we really want to pay attention to SoFi's management's outlook for Q1 of 2022 as well as the full year guidance for 2022. We want to know how their acquisition of Technisys and their bank charter approval are going to bolster their revenues for the full year of 2022, which is actually when SoFi Technologies is going to experience a very large growth rate. So even if SoFi Technologies doesn't grow a lot now, 2022 is anticipated to actually be better in most regards. Right now, the SOFI stock price is almost a prime buying opportunity. Ideally, we would want to snag SoFi Technologies below $10 per share. Because the current stock price tells us that the company is trading at around 9 times its sales, this is actually good because this is trading below double digits. It is not trading at 10 or above times its sales. Its PS ratio is a 9 or lower, and that's really what we want to see from this particular growth company, which means we as investors are getting a fantastic deal, especially if we want to hold this company long term. So although the SOFI stock price has fallen at a rate of around 40% just in the last 3 months due to macroeconomic factors, fundamentally the company is very strong. However, we will get a better perspective of their financials and fundamentals from the upcoming earnings report today, which could tell us about the future trajectory of this overall company to determine if we should buy or sell the stock. And again, investors in the upcoming report need to keep their eye on their member count, their products sold, their financial segment, their loaning segment, and management's revenue guidance for the full year of 2022. Overall, SoFi Technologies looks like a fantastic growth stock to own. I would love to hear your thoughts down below about SoFi Technologies, so comment those, smash that like button right now for more videos like this one, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next YT video.